Hi, Dr. Regan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
You can be confident in a quiet confidence. You can be introverted and confident just as much as, like me, you could be extroverted and confident.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in.
Welcome to Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I am your host, Regan Robertson, and I am here with the esteemed Dr. Chadwick Johnson, my co-host and international traveler. Happy New Year, Chad, and welcome to the show.
And if I had a pseudonym, I'd make it Billy Shears. And for anyone that knows the reference, yep, they can figure out this is Billy Shears, DDS.
Ed Sheeran?
No, it's going to be a cryptic message for the true fans. They'll know, not of this podcast, but they'll know.
It's an inside joke for the ages, but that's not what we're here to talk about today,
No.
Chad. We're here to talk confidence.
That's right.
What has come up this week for you that made you choose to have us dialogue about confidence? There's lots of reasons that confidence can help us, hinder us. We all suffer with it at times. Yes. So what brought this top of mind for you?
Yeah, it could be a hindrance in the sense that false confidence could be like, no, I'm the best person for the job. Vote for me, and it's like, you're not the best person, but you put out a lot of confidence. So interestingly, my case acceptance on two particular cases this last week led me to think I should talk with Regan about this during our podcast. But what happened was I had a patient. This last Friday, we did an implant open house. And one of the patients that came through.
Wait, I love the visual of that. An implant open house. I just picture people showing up with holes in their mouth like, let's go.
Yeah, right now, just open up. No, we opened up the place. You open your mouth. Let's roll. So this guy came in and he wanted to talk about treatment. And by the time we got done, he was like, here's the deal. The last office, they sent me down the street. And then, he said, why, like maybe we could do this and that. And why don't you think about going to here, this and that. And he kind of didn't quite understand what was wrong with the tooth. And I went in and I told him, I said, well, here's the deal. Before I came in the room, I looked at that x-ray and it's just like, well, there it is. I mean, you've got what appears to be a vertical crackdown the root of this molar. And it's had a history of root canal treatment and it's starting to kind of fester. And when I looked in your mouth, there it is, you could see that. And so it's pretty self-evident to me that this tooth isn't savable. And here's why, what you're feeling and stuff like that. And I even tried to, gentlify to soften the blow of, because he's like, why did the last dentist not, why did he do this and that? And I was like, well, here's the deal. I think he was wanting to make sure that before you definitively pulled the tooth, that you felt confident that that you've exhausted all your options. And, but by the sounds of it, he wasn't explained what was going on with it. And I said, I mean, shoot, I could just see right away. It just, there's blackness on this x-ray around the root of the tooth. And then it's hurting to chew on, stuff like that. You've got this history of root canal treatment on it. It looks fractured now. And And so I just said, we're gonna need to pull it, and how that's gonna help and everything like that. And he said, my wife comes here, my daughters come here, and so they recommended that I come check this out. And I'm glad I did, because it just seems like I'm at ease knowing that you understand what's going on, and you've done a good job of explaining to me. So like I feel comfortable about this. And
Mm.
that's a cool compliment, and at the same time, to be raw, I was thinking, what's sad is I could be really confident and have the wrong answer, like, because I'm
You
just
thought
thinking,
about that?
I did. I was just
Yeah.
like, this there, it's a dangerous tool to have confidence, because he said, you give me, like, you have a confidence about you that makes me comfortable knowing that you know what you're doing. And I just thought, boy, that could be dangerous, like that if
Mm.
someone, just is like, nope, I'm confident that all these teeth need pulled. And it's just like, whoa, this guy's really confident I should pull all my teeth. It's like, wait a second, does this line up with reality? And if it
Mm.
does, then cool. But I'm just saying, worst case scenario, you've got someone that's really confident and dumb, then you're host, right? So but then it repeated it itself, Regan. I had someone else this come in this week, and we've had 2 snow days this week. And
Mhm.
so she came in either Monday or Tuesday.
Explain to the listeners what a snow day is. It's
Oh,
just
good.
canceled, or yeah. So they came in on a snow day or off a snow day?
No, so yeah, I was trying to think. We had a shortened week because in the Midwest, here in Iowa and other places, like when you're anticipating or you're getting a ton of snow, a lot of businesses either shut down early, schools cancel, or are delayed to go in. Then the problem is with families and stuff getting kids to work. If they're going to be 2-hour delay at school, should we do a 2-hour delay for work? And our
So
patient's going to come in. It's a whole fiasco, because if patients aren't going to aren't going to come in, why should we come in? So it's a fiasco.
I'm stopping you right there, only because I
Yeah.
didn't ask you that because I actually cared about what a snow day is. I wanted to
No.
demonstrate where that confidence comes from, and you're walking somebody through a stage. So I'm about to dissect what you have done and why that person had the confidence. They're calling it confidence,
Yeah.
but why they actually were ready to say yes to your care. So tell us the second story.
Well, it was almost almost the exact same tooth, just on the opposite side. Same situation, broken tooth. You could actually see the broken root on the X-ray for this one. And it's almost like life was getting easier. I was just like, if I had everyone come in like this, it's like, your tooth is so broken, it definitely needs pulled. There's no, excuse. And she said, I went to this dentist, and then I went to the other, like, he referred me to a general dentist down the street, and I didn't like him at all. Like, I don't know. And then they sent me to an endodontist, and the endodontist said it probably needs pulled. But like, you're redoing the root canal treatment won't work. And I said, well, yeah, it won't work because the tooth is broken. And they said, well, I didn't, like, I just wasn't explained that. And I said, well, I'm looking at this X-ray, and here's, if I explained, I said, if we were looking at a crack in a windshield and it was getting, it was really small. And at first, the first clinician that's looking at this broken windshield is going, oh, I think it's broken. And then as it gets worse, it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's broken. By the time you've got to me, there's crack is all the way across the windshield. Okay. So I said, I've got the easy, cleanup here. By the time it's got to this point, it's easy for me to see, and it's easy for you to see, hopefully. So I don't know how easy or how hard it was for the last clinicians to see, the challenge of this tooth. But right now it's pretty obvious. And so it makes me look like the genius hero, because I'm looking at this tooth that's horrible and it just needs pulled. Okay. And I think they were catching on to it, but it was early enough that they're like, oh, I hate to tell this person that they have to have it pulled. If maybe the endodontist might be able to help us out and save the day, if it wasn't this bad on the X-ray. They were just hoping that, there might be another option. Let's at least visit the specialist first. And the specialist is thinking, I don't know what this dentist might be thinking, but I mean, it might be obvious to me. So I just said, there was probably a lot of uncertainty. At this point, I'm pretty certain this tooth just needs pulled. We can do an implant, we can do a partial, we can do a bridge, we can just leave the hole. Those are your 4 options. And so far as I'm concerned, historically, implants were super expensive and a bridge was kind of the mainstay. These days, a
Mhm.
bridge and an implant are about the same cost. I think you should get an implant here as long as the bone heals fine. And, let's get you started within the next couple of weeks when you're ready. Do you want to pull it today or wait, some other time? I often offer that. I'm just like, I'm at your service. Do you want to pull this today, or do you have other stuff that you wanted to do and you kind of just wanted to talk about it today? Because if you want to get started, I'm glad to do that, but I also don't want to twist your arm if you're like, oh no, I just wanted to put my toes in the water and kind of feel it out today. Cool with me too. Okay. So I'm willing to do whatever you want. And she remarked, she was just like, I feel like you explained it so well. And I just love the confidence that you brought to this, because at the other places, I just didn't get that. And I thought, this is normal MO for me. And then but obviously other people aren't getting that experience. And so I wanted to bring the advantage, Regan, to our listeners to say, you know what, this is something that you can bring as a clinician. If you don't feel like you bring this, or that you get complimented at least once a year that, hey, you exuded a confidence, that you don't have to be cocky. There's a difference. I mean, you can be confident in a quiet confidence. You can be introverted and confident just as much as, like me, you could be extroverted and confident. That's my whole monologue diatribe about the two patient interactions that were almost the same. And they both commented on the confidence factor, and they're ready to say yes. And I just thought, Bruce would be proud of me. And at the same time, other people need to be able to do that and seal the deal. And here's the thing, Regan, one important note, I didn't say, let me science up and explain all the nerdy details about this tooth and get into the weeds and tell you, microscopically, here's the problem is there's a frictional coefficient of the sealant that's down in the root of the tooth. And so then the periodontal ligament was unsupported and this and that. It's just like, I didn't talk nerd stuff. I just said, well, look at the x-ray. That looks horrible. Let's get you fixed. And they were just like, oh, finally, someone that knows what they're doing. Regan, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to break this down so that listeners can actually turn this into a tangible tool. This comes naturally to you after many years. And I know that you have genuine confidence as opposed to the fake confidence and the self-awareness that you have right out of the gate of checking yourself. Like, am I really making this recommendation from a place of experience? So that's where it's very difficult to fake authenticity. And that is authentically you. Everybody right now, go to Amazon and buy Proactive Selling by Skip Miller right now. It is a really weird book for me to recommend, right? It's for salespeople. It's what you did right there. Proactive Selling.
Skip Miller?
Skip Miller.
Okay.
Right now, because every single patient walks through a process. In proactive selling, they call it the sales process. It doesn't matter. It's when you're going to make any decision. And I'm going to dissect right now exactly what you did in the 5 steps that it takes to get someone to make a decision. And this is why I know, listeners, all he said was, can we talk confidence today? So I didn't know what I was going to get into. Okay, so there are 5 stages. There's the initial interest stage. That's number 1. That's the discovery of, oops, I've got a problem. Something has happened up. So they visit one dentist, or the teeth is like half cracked off, whatever it is. I got a problem. Then they need to immediately go into the education phase. That is step 2, educate and discover. What are my options? What do I need to understand about this problem? What solutions could possibly even be available to me? That is stage 2. Chad, you shine at stage 2. And there is, check out the 3 levels of languages in proactive selling, because it talks about how people talk at different levels. Dr. Bruce B. Baird, who you referenced as the co-founder at Productive Dentist Academy, he is chef's kiss in talking about how to speak to non-engineers and engineers. So he breaks it down in a way that dentistry and dentists and teams can understand. Skip Miller explains it more from an executive business standpoint, but they say the same thing. When you show up to a conversation with a patient, you have to speak in their language. And so you cannot get too sciencey on them. You cannot take them down the detail of how the procedure is actually going to be done, or the composition of the materials you're going to use. You have to reach them where they are going to feel interested, because your job through this 5-step process is to be a guide
Yes.
not to be the center of attention. So you already, and you said that. So here's something that everybody should write down. You said, I'm at your service today. You place yourself in a guide role. So that helps people feel confident also. You showcase to people when you get in that education phase that you're interested in the homework. So maybe you don't have files from the previous dentist, but you take the time to actively listen and understand their level of knowledge, what they have been educated on so far. You do your homework in real time. So if you're in sales, you're going to do your homework. If you're going to pitch a proposal or something kind of on the side, you do it right there in the seat. And you probably look at their health history and all that good stuff too. So you spend a lot of time there. This is important because many healthcare institutions don't often take the time to listen, to make the connection. So when you are successful at that, it goes into the validation stage. That is step 3. That is where transfer of ownership occurs. So you had talked about how, I think the second patient, she said, I don't know why, but you just did such a good job at explaining it to me. And I noticed that you said, you started to make guesses on maybe what the other clinician may or may have not been thinking, but you put it in a positive spin.
Yeah.
My guess is that you also ask what I call story questions. That's a business made simple term.
Yep.
Skip Miller in Proactive Selling, he calls it another term. I think he calls it the flip. But anyway, either way, it is questions that person might be thinking. So my assumption is you probably say, you may be wondering X, Y, Z. Oh, you did it with the bridge and the implant. You may have heard that, bridges are the more economical route to go. The reality is this. So you're transferring ownership. And if you're doing it right, and that's where your confidence also goes up, because you watch body language and you probably see that person nodding, their eyes light up. As soon as you know that, subconsciously, you have a green light to keep going through the process.
Yep.
So stage 4, when you do that, people are now feeling like that's where your authority comes in too, Chad. So that's where they start to feel.
On that step real quick, before you get to, this is great. But one thing that along those lines, when I get done, sometimes I'll have something nerdy to explain to the patient, but specific to dentistry and maybe a couple other industries, but specific within dentistry, I'll say, I know that was kind of nerdy, like some of that. Yep. And so I'll acknowledge that and I'll just go, did what I just explained make sense even if it needs to, but I'll apologize.
That is called a bridge. So a bridge is, oh my gosh, this is going to be my favorite podcast of the whole year already. That is called a bridge. You're seeking engagement. So you're actually summarizing what you just said. So you're kind of quickly summarizing. I'm sorry, this is a little nerdy. Does this make sense? Do you have feedback? Would you agree? Those are all statements that bridge into the next stage.
Yes. And before you get to that one, yeah. So that then is when I go, like you had already said it. So I'm just recapping because I'll say, the top 2 questions that patients are wondering. And so I'll say that. I'll say, if I pull this tooth, do I need to do the implant right away? And the answer is no, you don't have to. So then I'll explain, the advantage to getting the implant done, but you don't necessarily have to put the crown on it right away. You can get the implant, which goes down in the bone. It's basically the synthetic root, but it's not the top of the tooth. Patients kind of think about an implant as the whole thing and basically the tooth that you see and smile with and chew with. But to me, that's the implant crown. The implant is what goes down in the bone. You won't even see it for the first few months. And so it's stuff like that I'll just say, that's one of the questions that patients ask. And another one is, for example, like I'm it's not always 2 things, but I'll just say the other question that a lot of people within this circumstance are asking is, can I get sedation, for this because I'm awfully nervous about it? The answer is yes. If you want to talk that over, as I leave, Jessica or one of my assistants can look over the sedation form with you and kind of talk those things over. But the answer is yes. So don't worry about that. So I'm trying to hit the questions ahead of time, answer the question. How does Bruce say it? Answer the question before the question's asked.
Handle the objection before it's an objection.
There it is. So now I wanted to just ruminate on that last point because when you had said that, I was like, indeed I do. I'll say now the top 3 things that patients are wondering with this filling is, why didn't it work last time? And how long is it going to last this time? And how do I take care of it? Or what's the pain going to be? So I'll go over those kinds of things and basically saying, I've heard these questions before. I know you might even be thinking them, but I'm going to answer those questions before you've even asked them. Now, I don't want to do 10 questions, right? I don't want to be, be showing off.
No more than 3, really.
Yeah.
Keep it to 3.
I don't want to be like, well, the 24 thing, because then they're just going, oh, shut up. So, okay, keep going.
So what you want to do in that scenario, which I bet you do, is you select those top few pieces. And that's how, again, you establish your authority, you connect with them. You're in the validate stage at that point. So you are doing that. And then you flip it. And well, I'm assuming you flip it and say, now what questions do you have for me? Do you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a flip.
Verbatim.
So that's a flip. And that is firmly when a person goes from, I get it to, oh, I get it. Like, yes. I own it. I get it. And now I am justifying. So I am ready to rationalize this decision. So if you do it really, really, really well, it money doesn't become an option. It instead gets to, what are my options to proceed with this route?
Yep.
So you're not questioning the value. So I'm telling you, proactive selling, go through this book, because you have done a textbook job of how to walk someone through this process. So by that, at that point, too, is it, under my assumption again, would be when the treatment quarter would come in. So they decide they're going to do it. It unhooks from you. And now they're figuring out how to make that happy. And that's when you get to the decide phase. That's your last piece in that process.
The Band-Aid that I ripped off with the second woman, it was a lady in her, I think, upper 70s, and her daughter who came, and they were both, thrilled with how it turned out that day. She was a new patient comprehensive exam. So it wasn't just about that tooth, but that was the problem. The tooth behind it needed a crown. And so I basically said, listen, just so you know, because they're going to, naturally it got to the daughter saying, okay, so how much is this going to cost? I said, great question. And let me tell you why. I'm going to give you a quick ballpark, but right now, Melissa is dialing in the treatment plan, and then she's sending that up front. Before you leave, you'll have a cost estimate showing you everything you would owe.
Beautiful.
That said, implants are expensive. Just to rip the Band-Aid off, and I'll literally say that. I'll just go to rip the Band-Aid off. They're $6,000. And I watch them go, oh, and then I go, but just so that way you've got an idea. The crown, a couple thousand, and the implant and everything, a couple thousand or 6,000. So we're talking an $8,000 bill. And then but they didn't say, we're out of here. They said, okay, so does insurance play into that? No, but here's how it does. That's the top dollar, 8,000. Yeah. If your insurance pays 1,500 of it or 1,000 of it, then that takes 1,500 or 1,000 off of it. Something else you might be wondering is, could we place the implant this year? And if insurance pays for that, then perhaps place the crown on it next year. And they smiled, both of them. They lit up and they're like, we were talking about that on the car right here. Could we, and I said, absolutely. That implant isn't going to go bad, by December 31st of 2024. So by the end of the year, if you need to, wait that long and then place the implant crown this next year, of course we can. And so they're getting yeses when I can give those to them. And it was funny that their face lit up and they were nodding and going, we were talking about that. We wondered if that's something that we could do. Furthermore, the tooth behind it, I said, it's got a broken cusp and a big filling on it, but it's not a cavity. So if we do need to or want to wait on it, we can almost have this deferred treatment kind of thing where this tooth isn't going to go bad by January 1st of next year. So it's less than ideal, but we can wait if we want to or need to. And it's kind of the answers that they wanted to hear. Like, am I going to need to pull this tooth because I waited longer than 2 months? Because if so, then we'll make it work. And I think they would have made it work. And furthermore, sometimes with the $6,000 treatment plan, I'll say, and here's the deal too, that $6,000 isn't all due up front. I'm just telling you start to finish what it's going to end up costing, just so you've got in mind. So, all right, your thoughts, Regan.
How to build patient confidence with Dr. Chad Johnson.
Yeah.
The other piece that I love that Bruce, that I heard him do in office one time that I really liked, that I think puzzle pieces well together with this, is the adaptability. So like you said, you started in real time giving that adaptability and flexibility of the different types of treatment plans. I heard Bruce say, we can do this in phases for you. And
That's right.
I loved that term so much because I guess it speaks my language. So, if I have a treatment plan and I look at that bill and go, like, I don't really know how I'm going to do that. It's okay. Let's do this. Let's break this down in phases and make this more digestible for you. It's still a yes. And you could tell when you were saying, you might be wondering this, and their eyes lit up and they're like, oh my gosh, we were just talking about this in the car. It's a yes. You have them. It is a yes.
Yep.
How do you end the conversation so that you feel confident that a decision is going to get made?
So if it's going well and conversationally, like I go, my goodness, I just talked your ear off. I apologize. Like, I hope that was the information that you want to hear, like that you were hoping to gather today. But I'll tell you what, Janet, Janice, it was so nice meeting both of you. Do you guys have any questions before I head out of the room? Because Melissa's going to take you from here. And they're like, no, this is just wonderful. Oh, Janet, Janice, it was just so nice to meet you guys. I can't wait to see you back in the next couple of weeks. Let's get this taken care of. Off I go. Boom.
Isn't it? It's interesting. This showed how you maintained control, but also helped them feel empowered and in control of their own health.
Good. Cool.
And that's our podcast on confidence.
Yeah. So if you would like to learn more about that, don't get in touch with me. Get in touch with Productive Dentist Academy. So that way you can go to the workshop and learn directly from the guy I learned from, Dr. Bruce Baird, and hear him tell about it. If somehow you find out that you can't go to the March workshop, which is the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of March, then of 2024, you could
14th through 16th.
Wait a second. It is? Oh man,
Yeah.
I can't believe I got that mixed up.
It's
March
okay.
14th, 15th, 16th of this year. Then we also have a September option, or you can look at the Productive Dentist podcast by Bruce Baird on any of the, podcast stuff. Continue listening to ours, of course, but check out Bruce's stuff because it's just chock full of vitamins, minerals, and loaded with confidence and how to talk with patients, etc.
Thank you for your insight today, Chad.
Yeah, good time talking with you, Regan. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.